All right, let's talk about something really important. We're diving into a critical risk, one that's kind of hidden, but it affects so many people who've had a successful career and are now enjoying retirement. It's all about protecting what you've spent your entire life building. And it actually requires a totally new way of thinking. So, let's get right into it.
I want to start this off with a story. So, let me introduce you to Carol. She's 69 years old, a retired hospital administrator from Scottsdale, Arizona. And after 31 long years of hard work, she built something really solid for herself. We're talking a $700,000 IRA, a house that's completely paid off, and another brokerage account with about 150 grand in it. And hey, she had every right to be proud of that. So at her retirement party, she did what any of us would do. She shared the good news with her inner circle. She told her son, she told her neighbor, she even posted about her big milestone online. Now, she didn't get into the nitty-gritty, no exact numbers, but she shared enough for people to get the picture. They knew she was comfortable. And that's right when the trouble began. And here's the thing you have to understand about Carol's situation. She wasn't being careless, not at all. She was just being normal. But in the world we live in today, that very normal, very human act of sharing good news, it creates what you might call a targeting signal. It basically broadcasts your financial success to a world that is, frankly, more systematic and more dangerous than most of us want to believe. It turns your good news into a serious potential liability.
Now, you might be thinking Carol's story is just a one-off, right? A sad but isolated incident. Well, it's not even close. To really wrap our heads around the true scale of this problem, we need to zoom out and look at the national numbers. And I'm telling you, what they show is a staggering, rapidly growing crisis.
Okay, get ready for this number. $4.9 billion. According to the FBI, that's how much Americans over the age of 60 reported in losses to fraud in 2024 alone. Let that sink in. Billions, with a B. And what's even crazier is that the FBI is the first to admit this number is just the tip of the iceberg. It's only a fraction of the real total, because so many victims never file a report. They're embarrassed or they just feel helpless. But here's what's really scary. This isn't just a big problem. It's a problem that's getting bigger fast. That $4.9 billion figure, that's a 43% increase in losses from just the year before. And at the same time, the number of complaints from seniors jumped 46%. So what does that mean? It means more people are being targeted and they're losing way more money. This is an escalating threat and it is not slowing down.
And remember, the FBI number, that's just the reported fraud. The FDIC, they look at the whole picture, what they call financial exploitation. Now that includes scams, sure, but it also includes things like pressure from family or caregivers. And their estimate for the total annual cost, at least $27 billion. To put that into perspective for you, that's more than the entire gross domestic product of countries like Iceland or Jamaica. It's this huge shadow economy that's funded by the life savings of our retirees.
And if you look at how this has evolved just since 2020, well, the trend is terrifying. The reports of seniors losing more than $10,000, they've quadrupled, 4 times as many. Even more alarming, reports of losses over $100,000 have surged by nearly 7 times. The criminals are getting smarter, their methods are getting more sophisticated, and the average loss that gets reported is now a life-altering $83,000.
So how on earth does this happen? Well, it's almost never random. The people who do this, they don't just pick names out of a phone book. They identify targets based on signals. And the absolute strongest signal they can get is information about your financial situation. So to protect yourself, you first have to understand the 4 main ways that information is used against you.
Okay, so these are the 4 main vectors of attack. We're going to walk through each one of these, because understanding the specific tactics they use is really the first step in building a solid defense. They range from things that are deeply personal and close to home to things that are anonymous and high-tech. But they all start with the exact same thing. Someone finds out what you have.
This is the one nobody wants to talk about. It's uncomfortable, but the research is crystal clear. The vast majority of financial exploitation actually happens within families. Sometimes it's subtle pressure, and other times it's just outright theft. Elder law attorneys even have a name for it. They call it inheritance impatience. This is what happens when an adult child knows exactly how much their parent has saved up. They see them spending it, and they start to feel like that money should already be theirs. That knowledge, that specific number, it changes the entire dynamic. It's exactly what happened to Carol. Her son knew she was comfortable, so he had no problem asking for an $80,000 loan he probably couldn't repay.
All right, next up is the single costliest category of financial crime for seniors. It's called affinity fraud. It's a fancy term for something really simple.
and really dangerous. This is when a predator uses a shared community. It could be your church, your country club, your neighborhood, to build trust before they pitch you a bogus investment. Think back to Carol's story. Her neighbor introducing her to that financial advisor? That's a textbook example of affinity fraud. The trust was built because he was her neighbor, a part of her community, but the target was put on her back because he knew about her wealth.
Okay, let's shift gears to the stranger-based crimes. These cost seniors almost $2 billion in 2024. Now, I need you to burn this into your brain. There is one critical rule to internalize here, and it is this. Government agencies will never, ever call you to ask for your financial information or threaten you with arrest. The IRS does not call. The Social Security Administration does not call. Medicare does not call. Any phone call you get claiming to be from a government agency that involves money or a threat is a scam, 100% of the time, every single time. There are no exceptions.
And this brings us to the newest threat. And honestly, it's maybe the most terrifying one of all. Scammers are now using artificial intelligence to clone a person's voice from just a few seconds of audio they can find online, maybe from a social media video. Then they'll call a grandparent with a perfect replica of their grandchild's voice, claiming they're in jail or in the hospital and they need money wired to them immediately. This is the new grandparent scam, and it's specifically designed to create an emotional panic that completely bypasses your rational thinking. The only real defense against this is to have a prearranged plan, like a family code word that only you all know.
Okay, we've laid out the problem, we've looked at the sheer scale of the threat. And yeah, I know, it can feel pretty overwhelming. But now we're going to pivot. We're moving from the cautionary tale to an empowering, actionable framework. You are not powerless in this situation. There are very concrete steps you can take right now to regain control and build a protective wall around the wealth you have spent a lifetime creating. So here it is. This is the game plan. And I want you to think of these 7 steps not just as a checklist, but as layers of defense. Each one addresses a different vulnerability. We're going to walk through some of the most critical ones, but when you put them all together, they form a real strategy for making your wealth quiet, and because it's quiet, it's secure.
All right, if you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, please make it this. This is the single most important step you can take, and it's all about changing your language. When you say something like, "we're comfortable," or "we're doing fine," you're just communicating general well-being. But when you say, "I have $700,000 in an IRA," you are providing a target assessment. See the difference? The first one is just a social pleasantry. The second one is operational intelligence for anyone out there who does not have your best interest at heart. And you have to apply this rule everywhere, at the dinner table, on the golf course, and especially on social media.
Now, for any investment opportunity that comes to you through a social connection, a friend, a neighbor, someone from church, this right here is your secret weapon. It is your non-negotiable first step. FINRA's BrokerCheck is a free public database from the financial industry's main regulator. Before you even think about giving someone your money, you must look them up here. This simple 5-minute check can uncover red flags that just trusting your gut will always, always miss.
And here's why that little 5-minute check is so powerful. It replaces opinion with facts. It replaces feelings with data. You can see if a person has a history of investor complaints, you can see if they've had regulatory sanctions, or if they're even legally registered to sell investments in the first place. You know, trust is an emotion. BrokerCheck provides a documented history. And in the world of finance, history must always come before emotion.
All right, next up is a legal tool that is, well, it's tricky. It's a double-edged sword. It's called the durable power of attorney. Now, it's absolutely essential, because if you ever reach a point where you can't make decisions for yourself, this document lets someone you trust manage your affairs without a messy and expensive court process. But, and this is a big but, it is also the single legal document that is most often used in financial abuse. The key here is to work with an attorney to structure it very carefully. Maybe you limit its power, or you have it spring into effect only after a doctor certifies that it's actually needed.
And these are some of the other high-impact layers of that defense we're talking about. Do it. Establish that family code word we talked about to defeat those AI voice scams. Call your bank and your brokerage firm today and designate what's called a trusted contact. This is someone they can call if they suspect fraud, but who has no power to actually do anything with your money. Go into your accounts and enable 2-factor authentication on everything financial. And finally, check your free annual credit report to make sure no one's opened accounts in your name. Each one of these actions makes you a harder, less appealing target.
So let's pull all of this together. All of these tactics, all of these layers of defense, they all point to a single powerful shift in your mindset. In retirement, financial privacy isn't about being secretive or paranoid. It's a fundamental form of protection. The core idea is really simple. Quiet wealth is secure wealth.
And this, right here, this is really the central idea of our whole conversation. For decades, you focused on building. You practiced discipline, you were patient, you placed your trust in the system, and it paid off. Those are the virtues that create wealth. But protecting that wealth, especially when you're in retirement, it requires a completely different set of skills. The world has changed, the risks have changed, and so our skills must change right along with it.
Think about this contrast. The very qualities that served you so well your entire life, things like trust and generosity, can actually become vulnerabilities in retirement. They need to be balanced with a healthy dose of skepticism. The openness you've always shared with friends and family needs to be protected by firm boundaries, especially around financial details. And that belief in a handshake deal, that needs to be replaced by an absolute commitment to independent verification. This isn't about becoming a different, more cynical person. It's just about adding a new set of tools to your toolbox.
So we'll end with this question. You worked for decades to build your retirement. You made hard choices. You saved when it wasn't easy. You didn't get here by accident. Now is the time to protect it with that same level of intention and purpose. And that all starts by asking yourself a simple question. Is the information about what you've built private and protected, or is it out there in the world serving as a signal? Is your wealth quiet, or is it a target? The answer to that question might be the most important financial decision you make in your entire retirement.